hyper spiritualizing or over spiritualizing and not think about the practical. And then the world does the opposite, where it's like all the practical, physical, but not thinking about the spiritual. So it's really good for us as believers, healthy believers, to have that balance. So I just appreciate you putting together this presentation and, just helping us think through things. So thank you.
Thank you, Brittany. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. That's the thing. You're right. Oftentimes, and we've talked about this over the months, sometimes the church ignores certain things. I go to a church, or I'm a member of, because I haven't been going to the church since the pandemic, but because I'm a member of a church of all old people. And they're saying, Sister Potts, brother Henry over here, he likes you. Brother Henry's like 65, I'm 43. And he's like, you got a good pension coming in, and but Brother Henry don't like to go to the baseball game. He don't like to do nothing. So, to have both sides is important. You have to have somebody that enjoys time with you and things like that. Speaking of that, if any of you brave souls would like to share some of your must-haves, I would love to hear it, and tell me why it's a must-have for you.
I'll share mine, Davita.
Go ahead, Dash.
Okay, so intellect, consideration, introspection, compassion, drive, and honor.
You was cheating. You was looking at my paper.
So my reasons, intellect, I know that I disconnect in relationships if I'm not learning, or if I'm not imparting or receiving. I kind of check out. It's not something I think about. I just realize that, I'm checked out. Consideration, I feel like, you mentioned romance, and that's what's romantic to me, doing those little things that say, oh, you were thinking about me even when we weren't together. So, if you're in a relationship with someone, male or female, and they go and do things and they come back and you're like, dang, you got something for you and you didn't bring anything for me, or, something that just says, hey, I thought about, oh, you know what? I realized that you needed this, or that you would like this. Those little things to me are what's romantic, being considerate and thoughtful of the other person. So that to me is a sign that when there's something big, that you're thinking of me, because you even think about me when it's something small, which is important, I think, for women, because like you said, men are the head. And so as a good leader, you're considering your followers in your decision making. Introspection, I think I like to deal with people who are self-aware. It's challenging in a bad way for me to have to constantly explain to people what they're doing, like they're not aware of their choices and how they're affecting, or that they're reacting without thinking, things like that. And that concerns me when it comes to being, with a man who's not thoughtful on his decision making and understanding of his motivations. Compassion. I didn't realize how important that was to me until I had a friend who just was not concerned about the issues of other people. And I was like, wow, this really bothers me. I need to know that that God is touching your heart when you see other people going through, when you see things going on in the world, that you don't feel like, oh, that's them. That's not my problem. You can't take on everything, but I do want someone who cares for other people in other circumstances, and has a desire to do at least what they can, if they can. And drive, I'm always striving to be my best self. I want someone who is pushing themselves, because I feel like if you're complacent or comfortable, then and you're joined, then either one is going to be frustrated that you're always pushing to do more, or they're going to become complacent as well. And honor, I say that because integrity is important to me, as you guys talked about. And that really bothers me when someone isn't honest, because I don't know if I can trust them. And I do honestly take it as a as a disrespect, because I'm like, you really think that, I mean, we sleep, live, eat together. You think I don't know that you're not telling me the truth right now? Like, give me some credit. But just doing what you should because it's what God wants you to do. Doesn't matter who's watching, doesn't matter if anybody's ever going to know. But you should care more about your relationship with God than any other relationship. And he is certainly not going to tell you to do something that, oh, well, nobody gonna know, you can get away with this, so you just do whatever you want. That to me is very important, because that's how I am. And I feel like that's being your best self, to always say, would God be proud of me for this choice that I'm making? Or am I just doing it because I can get away with it?
That's good, Tayshawn. Yep, I love that. Thank you for sharing that with us. Anybody else? Any brave souls? If it's more than one person, raise your hand so we can do them in order. Just make me like Jay and start calling on people.
Yep.
Oh, go ahead, Mr. Richard. How you doing?
Pretty good. I was going to say a big part of marriages is if everybody works together, and if they go to church together and all that, or if they're not, or they're scared of God or not. And like I'm a king of things, because God created the kingdom of earth, and then things were going wrong. So Jesus came around to try and take care of things and heal people. But then he went away. So now I'm around trying to get the awareness of brain injury, how it happens, how to prevent it, and how to get help, and how to go to a doctor to get healed from the injury, and how to prevent it.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you. Anybody else want to share their?
Some people are scared of God, and some aren't scared of God, and some want to do things with God, and some don't want to. That's where some of the trouble's at too.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else want to share? Jay back there? JL, or he not gonna comment because he's at work right now?
Yeah, I'm working. I thought y'all knew that. Angel has her hand up. She wants to talk.
Oh, now, okay, I see it now. Hi, Angel.
Hey, Davida, and I just put it up, so he just happened to look at the screen and call me out. Let's see. So do you want us to read the whole list or kind of like the top one?
You can share whatever you want. And let me just say this, because let me see, I think we got 4 more minutes before we go to my after the camera stops rolling. But we can talk about anything, your must-haves and your preferences. You can talk about all of them or just one. The purpose was for us to do the self-discovery, but also share. So if anybody hears something, like if I hear something that continues to be resonated to the group, we got to target why. So go ahead, girl.
All right, cool. So I'll kind of give the high level must-haves. So the first one is integrity. And I think that's been pretty well explained by others and yourself during the presentation. The next one for me, and this isn't like necessarily in order, but purity. So, and it kind of goes with the one after that, surrender to God. So when you were talking about like how people following God can look different ways, for me, part of being surrendered to God is the purity factor. And I know that there's lots of thoughts and what have you on that. But for me in that area, that's something that I really strive for and have strove. Is that the word? Striven?
Strive for. And you're
No,
talking
like-
specifically about celibacy, right?
I'm talking about celibacy. I'm talking about just kind of having like a purity of heart with things. But if we go on to the celibacy, I really personally feel like that shows a lot of things. It hits areas of like discipline, self-discipline. Are you able to kind of wrangle in your temptations? One of the things that was on that list is avoiding temptations. You know, do you do things to set up pure environments for yourself? Or do you, will you lead me and our family into things that can be detrimental to us? So when I look at purity, I think sexually, yes, but like, what are we engaging in? What are we listening to? What are we watching as a unit? All of that.
I agree with you.
And then another one for me is supportive. So what I do in both of my jobs, one, I'm a manager for design and construction, and that is a very heavily male dominated realm, especially on the construction side. And, so I have to wear a hat of being a leader all day long. And then I work in another field with mental health. So now I'm listening to the challenges that are going on in people's lives and helping them as they journey through that healing process. So when the time is done, like there are times where I just want to have someone who is supportive. Men want a soft place to land where they don't have to worry about having this cantankerous woman who's just going to get on them, but is going to build them up, encourage them, those types of things. I want the same thing because of what I do. So that's for me, why it's kind of a must-have. And then the compassionate. I think someone who shows that they're compassionate to others and compassionate to you, that presents a place of safety. It also presents a place where you can be more vulnerable. So for me, if I'm with someone who is very compassionate, then I feel like, wow, I can totally be myself. I can show you my crazy, which isn't really that crazy, but nonetheless, I can, I can be safe around you, and I don't have to worry that I'm going to enter like the judgment zone every time something is going on. And then there's a softness. I mean, Jesus was very much a man's man, but he also had that softness because of his level of compassion. So other things that I put down was like enjoys growing. So in anything, your relationship with God, in knowledge, in a new skill, like always wanting to sort of evolve and not just be stagnant in life. I am definitely not one of the people that can kind of, this is what I do today, and then I go to bed, and then the next day I push repeat. Like I can't do that. I like all sorts of things. And
You're progressive.
Yeah. And so with that being stated, I think I would thrive better with someone who was the same way. Not saying that slowing down isn't a bad thing. I definitely appreciate relaxation and kind of being chill, but chill and relaxed isn't where I want to spend all my time. So
yeah, that stuff is good. Thanks, Angel. I actually, you said so much good stuff there. I have notes for everything, but when you talked about the purity aspect, that will show you a lot. That's actually on my list too, not just for celibacy, because what I put on my list, I was very specific, and I said someone who is willing to wait for marriage. Okay, because the thing is, we are fallible, and I'm putting my best foot forward in effort. It's been a few years for me, but I see every day I have to try. Like I can't tell you what's gonna happen tomorrow, but at least someone who is who wants to do the same thing, because I feel like that's where I start from, you know? So that is why in our conversations, when I date or someone like that, something like that, that comes up pretty quickly, because it tells me a lot about that person already, you know? And if they're at least willing to try that, because they're gonna have to if they want to see me. And then
So before you depart from that,
Mhm.
being willing to try, I think the next question that comes to my mind is, and because I've had this in other relationships where someone was like, oh yeah, I'm totally willing for that. But I always had to be the one to set a standard. I always had to be the one to be the brake pumper. You know, I had to do the work of it. So I'm wondering, what does willing look like versus
compliant and
yeah. Okay, there you go.
and initiating it. See,
Yeah.
for me, I mean, I'm very honest with you guys here. That would be a very I don't want to say sexy thing. That would be a very attractive thing for me if I met a man that said that he wanted to wait and he was faithful in that. That would make me want him more, actually.
Mhm.
You know, it's like, wow, because I know that the sexual drive in a human being is very strong. It takes a lot to control that. You know, that's going to tell you something about that man's discipline level, you know, and it's
Mhm.
like, wow, okay, I can follow him, you know.
Yeah. And that he's willing to put, and that's for women too, that the person is willing to put the needs of someone else and ahead of his own desires, even
Right.
the as well as the desires of someone else ahead of his own, as well as the Lord ahead of his own. It's like it's
Right.
a reminder of that crucified life.
Right. And it's not
Which
even
is
just a surface thought that this is what we want to
Mhm.
do, but it's also putting measures into practice that allow you to maintain that, you know, and like accountability. And like I said, you don't have to lock me up. I've locked certain parts of me up on purpose. I'm like, okay, no, I don't do the late night dates. I don't do things that would put me in a position where I would go against what I've said that I want to do. You know, and again, that takes maturity, because I wasn't always here. But now that I am, I would like somebody who's also gone through that, because it was a journey to get here. So that's one thing that you said. And then you said about compassionate. And I see a lot of our guys. I see Chuck is here. I don't know how long you've been here, Chuck, but now I see hey, and Sean, and we have a few other guys on here. And so when Angel was talking about compassion, I was like, I wonder if guys think we mean just to be like a pushover and be sappy, because that's you know, that's not what we're talking about at all. Like, we love a man's man, you know, but that softness, like when your woman says something and you stop what you're doing and you listen to her, that takes a certain type of man that realizes, this is the woman I love. She's trying to communicate something with me, and I'm going to stop and listen to her, instead of, you know, letting it go in one ear and out the other. Because oftentimes when God sends you a woman, she's also your wisdom. She's your wisdom. And sometimes she'll give you another perspective, or something to consider, or she'll remind you of things that you may have lost sight of, because you guys look at such a big picture. You know, we oftentimes look at the finer details, and I think that women in general are designed that way. And so, you know, a man that's compassionate means that he's sensitive, not only to God's voice, but the woman that he's put in his life, he's sensitive to that too. So, oh, go ahead, Chuck. Your hand is raised. Yes, sir.
I wanted to first hello to everybody, and also wanted to just echo what we were saying about purity. Just another way of looking at it, and something that came to me is, faith doesn't say that I'm going to have. Faith says I have. So if you believe that your spouse is out there, you believe that God is faithful to that and has put that desire in your heart, then be faithful to that spouse, even though you aren't with them right now. The person you're dating, they may or may not be the one. And so if you're compromising with them, then that's building a character of compromise. I mean, my whole life has been training. I fly airplanes for a living. That's something you train to do. I stepped in my first airplane at 18. That's something that's driven home. You can't expect a result unless you actively train to get there. And you can expect, actually, let me change that. You can expect whatever you want, but you won't have the internal capability of producing that.
Mm-hmm.
That was good. What you said, Chuck, was so good. You need to drop the mic right there.
Yeah.
Because you said, I've never heard anybody say it like that. If you believe that you have, then you are waiting for that person. That's good.
You're faithful to them. Like how can you if you're going to be standing there on a wedding day, you should be stating I won't say a work history, but you should be stating your history. There should be a momentum behind that, not just what you say that day. And so if your faithfulness is there, then it starts with God's word and extends to that person. But if somebody comes into your life and they say, okay, God says this, but hey, you and I, let's go this way. That's a trigger. That's like something that, that's a strong, what I say, red flag that you might not be the one. So I say look, I'm going out with you. And if I say something that's not lining up with God's word, I want you to be the one to, I'm not saying I would, but I'm just saying that's the character that I look for. Is if I say something that's not lining up with God's word, she's going to be like, hey, Chuck, look, put on the brakes. But some people I've found, and if they're with somebody that's with God's word, they're with God's word. If they're not with somebody that's not with God's word, then they're going that direction. And I think having some backbone as far as your faith is huge. So
that was good. Where's the mic? Yeah, like,
Echoing what Chuck just said, which was absolutely phenomenal. It makes me think back to when I was married, and before I got married, I remember my fiance and I, we were sitting on the couch talking one day, and I just felt inclined to apologize for not waiting for him. And the thing, and that, I mean, it was just heavy in my spirit. Like I didn't wait for you. Now, it was before Christ. And so I was, out there wilding. But one of the things that I did realize afterwards is that when we rack up these partners, for whatever reason, it plays in your marriage. And it's like porn. Like, you think porn is like virtual. So we'll do this in our world today. And like having multiple partners is, the non-social distancing aspect of what we typically have in life. Mm-hmm. Whether it's virtual or whether it's actual, we'll still remember it when we're with our one. And those people, that person that we're with, will never be able to compare to somebody else or to even ourselves. Mm-hmm. And so remembering like, wow, everything that I do has a consequence, has a playback, will come up again. And so it sort of goes back to what Chuck was saying. Like, if you're faithful, that God is going to be faithful to this thing that he's put in your spirit, in your desire, in your heart, then be faithful to that, because anything else is also just going to cause damage. Now, there is grace, there is forgiveness, most definitely. But on the other hand, like, why add it? Why have that as one of the other things that you've got to overcome relationally, because you will have to overcome it relationally.
Well, you think about soul ties. I mean, there are people that are in marriages right now that have soul ties in various states of composition and decomposition. And this person, hey, I was just calling to check on your brother. You know, there's a reason why God says, like when I was saying all that other stuff, when we get a manual, it's the person who made this plane says, this is how you're supposed to fly. You would be crazy to say, okay, this is how they say that we're supposed to fly, but I'm going to do something what I want to do. That just shows a lack of maturity, a lack of professionalism, a lack of, you really shouldn't be there doing at that level. You know, you need
It's
to do
dangerous
that at private pilot level, not professional pilot level. So you get this manual from God, says, hey, this is how I designed you. This is how you work. This is how this system over here I designed is supposed to work. Now, I'm putting it on the honor system for you guys to operate that way. And people, and if you get married and you haven't done your homework, you haven't, developed those things, you really are just going someplace to have an accident. So, that it's really just, a choice in a long line of choices that we have as Christians and as Christian singles, the life that we want to live. And one of the things you say is that heart of, look, I don't want to get the other person that I'm involved with off track either. That's my sister. That's my sister in Christ. She may not be my sister, my treasure. Why would I want to get her off or damage her in any way for her husband to have to deal with later on, or why would she, so we're basically protecting each other. We're thinking in a way that the world doesn't think. And so, it's not about, hot girl summer, hot guy summer, city guy summer, or whatever, so it's like, you gotta, when the world's saying that, you gotta have enough maturity, Christian maturity in yourself to push that, to tune out the noise and be resolute in what you're living and doing. Because the enemy wants to destroy families. And how he does that, kind of what Angel was saying, that pre-programming, before you get in that marriage, you're going to be sitting there with your spouse or whatever, and those thoughts come up. I wonder how so-and-so's doing, so don't put yourself there. The manufacturer says that that's not going to work, going to be beneficial for that union. You got to take him at his word. So.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Natalie, I was wondering when you was going to say something.
Hey guys, I'm literally like washing my hair right now. And if you know how thick my hair is, that's a project. But I've been wanting to speak so badly because this presentation was so awesome. Like through like even just your analogies to the actual examples and Bible verses. Oh my goodness. Like I'm so gonna like definitely recommend other people to see this. But you guys are talking about soul ties and how detrimental that could be, proceeding in your next relationship. And although I didn't have a lot of bodies, but the relationships that I was involved in was so toxic, like, mentally. And because it started off physically, the soul ties were even stronger because, initially that's what it was supposed to be. So gradually, and then on top of it, it was like long-term situationships. So when you like, say to yourself, okay, I'm going to involve myself with this person, and really it's just really about the physical, but yet, you kind of do relationship type things, it really messes with your mind. So, those relationships are toxic because it's like one person is saying, okay, why are we doing all of this? I'm meeting your parents, I'm this, I'm that, but you don't want to, develop anything further with me. So then really the soul ties start turning into something, or I should say morphing into something that's really just manipulative. So then you go back and you start questioning yourself as a person. Like, am I not good enough to be somebody's girlfriend? I'm not good enough to be engaged to somebody. Like, I'm good enough to sleep with, I'm good enough to prance around and act like you're in a relationship, but I'm not good enough for these things. So by the time you're done with the relationship, you don't know who you are as a person, because you are questioning so many things. So this is why I say, and I think I shared this the last time I spoke, I really had to do a cleanse. I had to do a cleanse. I have been celibate for 5 years. And if you find yourself like in toxic relationships and in situationships and in relationships that have strong soul ties, that is the only way to detox. That is the only way to get past your relationships, the only way to go back to God and be like, God, fix me. Like, I'm leaning on you for everything. I've been doing everything by myself. It's not working. I don't want these type of relationships. They are not beneficial to me. They don't grow me. If anything, I would say this. I needed to go through that process because I needed to find God better. You know, I needed to develop that true relationship and that true trust in God, because literally yesterday, and it sounds like I'm going on a rant, I'm sorry, but this is like so passionate to me, because legit, like yesterday, I was talking to a friend of mine, a really good friend, and I said to her, she's in a relationship, she got divorced twice. And she's in a new relationship, and she's telling me how awesome this man is, and da da da. So I was telling her, you know, I've been celibate, and I'm thinking I want a man or a husband who is wanting to be celibate with me. And she's like, good luck with that. Like, you have so much competition out here, and this and that and the third. And then she started having me question, you know, what I was doing. So I called my other friend who is walking in the spirit with me and who's also being celibate with me. And she's like, well, if you trust God to give you somebody that is just for you, why are you questioning this? Why are you letting people get into your head? Because guess what? If you go and make yourself vulnerable like that again, you're going to have to start from square one. Is that really where you want to be? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So also too, with, you know, this whole walk with God and having faith, and even just, you know, finding your person, you have to get in relation with people that are friends that are on the same path. Because if you are not, the other people that are not saved, that are not, you know, kind of walking that path with you, they're going to derail you. You know what I'm saying? So it's just so crucial to not only be in relationship with people that you're trying to date romantically that is in the walk of God, but also to the ones that you keep as friends. Okay, I'm gonna stop there.
I agree with that. That's good. You know what, Natalie, you said a lot there, but I want to point out too at the end, yes, we are, like, I know I have a very small circle. It's just two of us who feel the same way about that. You know, we've gone a few years, okay, but we know we can't just ostracize ourselves. Like, I have other people that I talk to. I don't always share it with them because they look at you like you have a third eye. I share it with everybody in this group, but that is not the popular route to go. And so, yeah, I think Chuck said it once before about guarding our gates and how, like, what we listen to, what other people have to say about what we know God has said is the right thing. Sometimes we got to be like, you know, block that, because you know what he said to you. So, but yeah, that's real, and I loved it.
Davida.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say right quick, if you know God told you something, write it down.
Oh yeah,
so when somebody tells you something that's in contradiction to that, and they sounding like they really like those are good points. Those are good points. I mean, we don't often not understand what God is saying, or why He's saying it to us. But if you believe God, as Chuck was saying, if you have faith, then what God's word is, that should be enough.
That's right.
And I mean, this is not necessarily about relationship stuff, but in my path of being, a young widow and all of that, there are so many things that I told people, this is what's going to happen because God, that's what God told me. And they're like, how are you going to do that? You don't have money. You don't have this. You don't have that. I don't need to know. It's not for me to know. It's only for me to believe what God said, and he's the one that's saying this, I'm going to do this. I just have to believe it. I just have to know that whatever it looks like, I know that it's a fact, and accept it as a fact and embrace it as a fact. And don't let anybody tell you anything different, because then you're choosing between what somebody's telling you over what God told you. And yeah, sometimes it's hard to remember, like maybe I didn't hear it right. So write it down. When God tells you something, write it down and go back to it as often as you need to.
Oh, that's good. Tejan, so not just write it down, you have a journal. That's a good thing. That is a good thing. Like just to have a certain place that you write it all down.
Exactly.
Because I used to write it on any piece of paper, like, because sometimes you'll be washing the dishes and just doing something, and he will speak to you, and confirm something. and I wrote it on a piece of paper, and now I can't find it. But so now I have
be able to find it.
Right. So now I have a journal. And that's something I've been using for a couple of years. But all right, I see my brother over here, Sean Williams. You got a couple Williams in here. You want to say something?
What's up, Davida?
Hey.
Actually, I'm being like Jay. I'm kind of working too. At the same time, I'm talking to y'all. So.
Oh, okay.
But I can hear every word. Good presentation. The things that you talked about that a man likes in a woman, I agree with the majority of it, probably about 99.9%. I think one of the those things that you talked about for me is what makes a woman attractive, not the outward appearance. So you can take an average looking woman with those traits, and to me, she becomes the most beautiful woman I've ever seen, literally. So,
wow.
I mean, like I said, all of the stuff that you said, I agree with, because of the type of,
Would you add to it? What would you add?
I wouldn't add to it. I wouldn't add to it at all. But what I think is those things, if you take each one individually, they may go a little bit deeper. Like Angela talked about, not the celibacy.
Purity?
The purity thing. So yeah, the purity is good for me, but I would call it, for me, it's like a trust issue. So the kind of relationship that I need to have, there has to be a very deep level of trust. Because if there's somebody, like, because of what I do, I may travel a lot. So if I'm traveling a lot, I don't want there to be the suspicion, oh, is he doing this and that and this and that and this and that. And the only reason why I can say that is because the last relationship I had, I was always being accused of wanting to get with somebody else. But because we were dealing with issues that wasn't reality or fact, we was never able to deal with the real issues in our relationship that we needed to deal with in order to move forward. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. But you were scratching the surface like a like a symptom, but not really healing the cut.
Right. It seems like every 6 months we're still like scratching the surface. We should, I feel like we should have been further along emotionally as a mature couple, because I mean, there's a lot of things that how can I put it? Life shows up, right? So life has its own challenges by itself. People are going to die. People may get hurt. You may get hurt. You may become crippled or whatever, but life has a way of showing up. So I don't want somebody that's going to create drama to, like just create unnecessary drama, because I feel like life has enough drama all by itself. Mm-hmm. And if we're running together, if we're a couple, as life throws us drama, we should be mature enough to handle it as a couple. Mm-hmm. Give an example, like in my last relationship, she had like a physical illness to where she was dealing with for a lot of years and she needed to get surgery. Now, I knew that going into the relationship. I knew the ramifications of that going into the relationship. And I had to ask myself, well, what kind of person are you going to be with this situation? Because it wasn't going away. You know, but for me, that's just life. So I decided that I was going to be supportive as possible, to kind of help her as much as I could, you know, and pretty much that's what I did, because it's just life. She had to get a surgery that was going to change her life forever. And, you know, I had to decide, okay, are you going to deal with that or not? You know, but for me, it's really like the trust issue. I really need a certain level of trust, because if there's a certain level of trust, I think that emotionally we can grow at the rate we need to grow. You know, like, you know, I need somebody that's kind of gut level honest. You know, if
Yeah.
I'm acting like a fool, tell me I'm acting like a fool. Don't be a pushover. You know, but, you know, don't be the bossy type neither, always wanting your way.
So that sounds like that's a must-have, really. It's not a
It is a
preference.
must. It is a must
It's a
have.
must.
It's a must have. It is a must have. So those things that you spoke about in the scriptures that we want in a woman, yeah, those things are attractive to me.
Mhm.
Since I moved to Atlanta, I don't know, people in Atlanta call me bougie. I'm like, you know, I grew up in the hood in Brooklyn, you know, but just because I grew up in the hood in Brooklyn, that doesn't mean that I want to continue to live that lifestyle. You
Right.
know, I don't want to continue to be in places where you can get shot on any day, any given day, or robbed on any given day, or who knows what could happen on any given day. You know, I like going to museums. I like good food. You know, I like trying different things, you
Mhm.
know, so I like going places that I've never been before. So somebody that's like you said, growing, because I'm always learning. I always keep a library of books. And I know they got the digital books now, but I still like the paper versions of books. So somebody that's kind of always growing, always learning, you know, it's not a must-have, but it's a nice to have. But if you're just okay with where you're at and you're fine with where you at, that's okay too.
Yeah.
You know, comfortable in your skin. So
Sean,
yes,
you know that
Tijan.
you know trust was not the problem. It was her insecurity, right?
It was, but because we could never get past the, what I call it, the story that she created in her head, we
Mhm.
couldn't deal with the insecurity that was there.
Mhm.
Because if we was being gut level honest, I mean, there's things that I'm insecure about that I could be gut level honest about. Because I know myself and I'm always working on myself and I'm always reading books to help me deeper understand myself, which is one of the reasons why I'm in this group to begin with. We could never get to those insecurities because I felt like if we could have got to those insecurities, she could have seen where I was and that would have kind of helped it be okay, in at least for a little while. Because we all got insecurities. I'm okay if a person has insecurities as long as you understand that these are your insecurities and, you know, don't put that mess on me.
Right, but that was it. Is that it was made to be like as if you could do something to make her trust you, and therefore it wasn't that it was in her, it was
Right,
an external thing,
right,
which he wasn't acknowledging
right.
that yeah, this stems from something internal that Sean can't do anything about. This is something that I have to deal with in me.
Because
Um,
one of the things I'll ask piercing questions. Like one of the questions that I asked her is that what have I done or what behavior have I demonstrated that would take your mind to this place, you know, or that would show or convince you that I'm somebody like this, you know,
You
and I
know what,
couldn't get
Sean?
straight answers.
Right. Because it had probably had nothing to do with you, had to do with
Right,
the guy before you.
right.
right, and that
And
I
she knew,
mean, she right. And I know
yeah,
Natalie got
she,
her hand up, but I'm getting ready to talk about what Natalie said for a quick second. In that when we get into those situations and we do care about the person and we're trying to meet them halfway and be compassionate, sometimes we get a little bit sucked into their version of reality.
Mm-hmm.
And then we start to think like, okay, maybe I did do something. Maybe you start questioning yourself, like some of what Natalie was saying, and thinking that there's something that you've done to contribute to it. And I don't think that there's ever a situation where anybody is 100% right or wrong, but you do have to kind of keep a sense of self of, okay, I'm willing to, entertain this, but I know what my part has or has not been, and what I've done to try to, compensate for this issue, knowing, because everybody wants the person that they're with to know them, but at the same time, you can't fix anybody, and you can't make them see something that they don't want to see.
Like, let me give you an example. Y'all know I'm a web developer. I build websites for people. Got a new customer. She was an attractive woman. So we met in Dunkin' Donuts, and we sat by the glass wall or the glass window. And while we sat there, it took me about maybe 6 to 7 hours building out the initial stages of a website so I could figure it, so I can finish it up. But she was constantly giving me input. The entire time, my ex was calling me, and every time she called, I picked up the phone. Hey, how you doing? I said, okay, this is who I'm here with, yada, yada, yada. That was not good enough for her. Now, the Bible says, don't let there be a hint of immorality, which is the reason why I chose the Dunkin' public place to begin with. That's just something I've been doing way before I even met her. So I wanted to, kind of let her know that, okay, well, this is just who I am. I'm not going to put myself in a position to where you would even think that, I can go somewhere with this.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought I was okay with the fact that, okay, I'm in a public place, and then every time you're calling me, I'm picking up the phone and answering your phone call.
You were doing it right.
That was not good enough for her. And I heard about how I wanted to get with her for like the next 2 months.
Well, I'm so glad that relationship is over.
Yeah, it is. It is
because that's something you can't fix. That's the thing, you cannot fix it. It's nothing you can do for that person.
Right.
Yeah.
But the sad part is that on the I think I was more disappointed that the relationship ended, because on the surface it appeared to be a relationship that should work. Because on the surface, it appeared that we wanted the same things, that we was on the same page financially, the things we wanted in a relationship, the things that we wanted in the other, because we spoke about it in detail. And we both met each other. We both fit the bill when it comes to those things that we wanted. So it appeared on the surface that this relationship was going to work. But those underlying insecurities, like, I couldn't fix them. I'm not a therapist. I can't fix people. I tell people all the time, look, you have a God. If he can't help you, what in the world am I supposed to do?
Right. That was on one of the closing facts. You cannot fix a person. Only God can do that. And they have to want to be fixed, and they have to recognize that they have some things there going on. But I see, Natalie, you put your hand down, but we still want you to go ahead.
I was going to comment to Sean's comment about the whole, chick saying that, didn't trust him and stuff like that. But to Sean said basically what I was going to say about insecurity. But to kind of elaborate a little bit on that, you had made a comment in your presentation that guys want a woman who's confident in herself and the looks department and stuff like that. That confidence also should transcend into other aspects and, characteristics of that person. Also being confident of who you are as a person, knowing that, when I get into relationship with people, people, I have things to offer. Whether you want to be a funny person and you're not, you better be confident that you're a funny person. If you think that you're smart, be confident in the fact that you're smart. So the confidence has to transcend into every element and aspect of your life, because that's when, the fakery comes. People can easily say, okay, she's trying too hard to do this or be this type of person. That to me doesn't read confident. So then they start questioning you as a person. And that's when things start going downhill, because you're thinking, oh, I am who I am and I'm being a great person. And I thought this person liked me. No, but some people, especially myself, because I've been keeping myself and I feel like I have a good level of discernment, that I can see when people, are, what's the word, inadequate in certain ways. Like, it's the biggest turnoff to me, like going on a date with someone and they're like, oh yeah, I used to manage P. Diddy, or I used to, I know this person, I can get us into this club, or, or I make so-and-so salary. Okay, what are you compensating for? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's something that's going on that you're not confident about, that you're basically fluffing me up, that once I enter and finally discover that thing, I can forgive that based on all the other stuff that, you are so-called, proficient in. But yeah, that's what I have to say.
That's good. I agree with that too. It's funny because I'll give you an example too, Natalie. I live now in Baltimore City. Baltimore, it's a city, just like New York City. People move fast. And I have been approached by some guys, I say a little thuggish, but that's not me. I don't like thugs. And I tell them, I guess I look like a damsel in distress. I don't know. But I'm like, I'm a nerd. I like to read. People, look, y'all see the thumbs up. Y'all don't know this. That's my sister right there. If y'all didn't figure that out. But I'm a nerd. I like to read. I like crossword puzzles and jigsaw puzzles. I have 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzles in here. I'm a homebody. But the thing is, I have to tell them, because for whatever reason, and I'm working on this, I know whatever reason, I look like maybe I'm not a nerd. I don't know. But I mean, I work at an elementary school. I'm an administrator at an elementary school, and I work around children all the time. I like creativity and education and learning and stuff like that. And I have to tell people, and I'm like, I embrace it. This is who I am. If that is not for you, you might want to keep moving, And
that sounds good.
I mean, but for some people, so again, knowing yourself is like what we talked about. I tend to gravitate towards people who like those same things, men who understand children are here. They are our future, Public education doesn't seem to treat them like they are, because that's why I work for public education. But I value them. And so I'm like, that's why God planted me here, so that I can give them the God in me and teach them that they are special. They are beautiful, try to esteem them. We have kids. I'm going to make this short. We have children that come to school. Their hair has lint in it. They got dirty faces. People like, get out the house, they send them to school. And I'm part of a front office staff where we clean their faces and, brush their hair, try to get them looking nice, because I'm like, I want you to feel like you are somebody. And so I like to be around people who also value the same thing. Are you raising your hand, Jay?
Yeah, because I don't have a way to raise my hand.
Oh.
The Zoom is on me.
Okay.
But I wanted to say something to Natalie's point. That's why I popped in. There's a scripture that's always really interesting, and it talks about there are those people who are rich that act poor, and then there are those who are poor that act rich. So when you're dealing with all these guys, they're like, oh, I got P. Diddy, I got this, I got that. 9 times out of 10, if they did have that, they wouldn't be telling you.
That's true. Exactly.
You know, if I'm a multimillionaire dude, which, you know, hey, you never know, the animation might take off. Trust me, you know, when I introduce myself, if somebody doesn't know who I am, they're gonna be like, well, what do you do? I do IT.
That's
You know,
right.
I just do computers.
Exactly.
You know,
That's all
I'm
we say.
hustling and trying to, you know, make, you know, my way in this world, you know, and then after maybe 3 months, you know, for putting up with me, then I'll be like, well, if you haven't figured it out, I'm a millionaire, you know, and,
If you
and
haven't
I'm
figured
hoping
it
you're
out.
gonna throw me away now that you know.
Yes,
Um,
really.
but
Exactly.
yeah, but I mean,
So
that's
like
what's real.
fourth date is the jet date. That's when you're gonna bring on a private jet and show up.
The fourth date.
Maybe.
Well, I mean,
Maybe.
that's what I'm saying. You gotta you figure it out. It's like, I'll be honest with you, because you know, technically, I guess now, you know, some people might even see me as a dating coach because of this group. So that's not always something, you know, that I say, you know, when I first meet somebody, because then certain things might go off in their head or whatever it is. It just depends upon how I'm feeling or the vibe I'm getting from them, whether or not they can take it. Because some people they can't, you know, that's intimidating to them. It puts them already on guard coming into the relationship. So it just is how you play it out. And the reason why I'm just saying it is because when you're dealing with a lot of people that actually have a lot of money, especially if they're comfortable in their money, they really don't show off. Being show offish is actually a sign that you're not money. You know, and that's why you generally see second and third generation guys or women, you know, they come from money, they don't really show off. You would never know, you know, until you come home. That everybody riding a Rolls Royce and, you know, all these $100,000 cars, that's really a sign that you're not used to money. Because people that have money, they invest their money. Their money
Amen.
is in an investment somewhere. And 9 times out of 10, they're not going to talk to you about it because honestly, you're not even at that place where to just be, you know, without being a total jerk about it, you know, you're not at that place where you are worth their conversation because their conversation is worth money.
And I think that people who are looking for someone genuine who actually do have money, they don't want to put it out there. Because they already like people who do have money and do flaunt it, they are looking for what their money can buy. They're not looking for something long term. They're looking for whatever I can get right now. And so that's why they're specifically showcasing it. But people who actually want something quality and long and a relationship that's going to last, they're actually going to try very hard to put that down because they don't want you to be attracted to what they have. They want you to be attracted to them.
They don't want groupies. That's what it is. And i.e. don't date the new rappers because those are the first ones that will show off with cars and money and all of that stuff.
They are the worst.
Mm-hmm.
You put it out.
They are the worst. Yes, I said it.
Well, I mean, if you know anything about that industry, I used to sing when I was younger and I got out of it because I'm not a fake person. I mean, that's all a facade. That's all just for your pleasure, for your viewing pleasure. And so, you know, the more bling you see, the more debt they owe, really. So, I mean, that's how it goes. They lease these things in exchange for you need to put out this many singles. So they become a slave, you know, to the industry. And so, yeah, they're flashing all that because they have to live it up while they can. If you go into the music industry and you get to a certain level, they're going to throw everything at you because you don't know how long that's going to last.
It goes back to what we talked about last Saturday. If you know something, you don't feel the need to prove it to anybody.
That's right. You know it.
You know, if you have it, you don't have to show it to any. And really, if you got real money, you don't want anybody to know because
that's why you don't want nobody.
They're gonna be in your pocket.
Let me tell you, if I ever won the lottery, I'm hiding out. Because Because you know your friend from fifth grade that didn't even like you. That was sitting there. That's what people come out the
Third cousin
woodwork.
twice removed coming out the
That's
woodwork.
right. They come out the woodwork. So you just try to play it down, And so that's why we talked about all these other attributes. Oh, you know what I wanted to say? Okay, so on one of the slides, it was for the guys, and it said, it was an attractive woman. It was a white woman, right? So when I clearly look at that picture, I can clearly see that was an attractive Caucasian woman. So somebody could be attractive, but not necessarily what you like, and so I wanted to bring that out because our list for our must-haves and our preferences are uniquely catered to us, and there's no right or wrong answer for any of those things. So that's why I kind of put that picture there, because especially if you are, like I always tell you guys, I come from a large family. We have several sisters. We all look different. And so we learn to appreciate the beauty in all women, different colors, different sizes. There's never been a competition thing. I never understood. We don't understand the competition thing with women.
Exactly.
Because this one's got the shape, this one's got the brains, this one's got the servant's heart, this one, everybody does their own thing. And so you have to find what's attractive to you. Same thing for us ladies. Like I said, my walls have been crushed down. I had a couple of things that I just was not going to do. One of them on my list was dating an old flame. Once I closed the door, I was like, I'm done with that person. But I realized that sometimes it's not that it's the person's wrong. Sometimes the timing is wrong. And you are either immature or that person is immature. But before you go forward, because it was just presented to me recently, a person who I dated 10 years ago, I had to say, okay, number one, have I grown since that time? Have they grown since that time? Are the challenges and issues we had still present, which they were? But again, it took me 2 dates to find that out. And I was like, no, I do not want to revisit this chapter of my life. I can't go back to that. So, but again, I tried it because here I had all these different reasons and things on my list. Oh, I want somebody who's new. I want somebody who's 6'5", Natalie. I wanted somebody.
Yes, no
Yeah,
shame.
I want all these things, but those things, God has gradually been working with me. And I said, you know what? I want the bare bones. And if he's good looking and he treats me kindly, and compassionate, like Angel was saying, compassionate, doesn't speak harshly. I've dealt with people who yell and cuss at you, and that's love, and they want to apologize the next day. And I'm not receptive to that. I'm not. Some people can deal with that love-hate. They call it the ghetto love, black love, or whatever thing. And I'm like, no, that's not love at all. I don't want that for me. So you have to be very candid.
I have a serious question. So, all right. So the conversation, I kind of, had you listen to it, or I gave you some tidbits of the conversation that I had with my friend. In the same conversation, she said that, I used to be kind of singing the same tune you are, Davida, about I used to, looks used to be really important. I used to put that first and that. And I was like to her, so are you saying to date someone that you're, not really attracted to? And she's like, no, but you have to make sure that they can support you financially, this, and the third. And I understood all that. And so I say this to basically state that if someone like myself has a really puts the whole height thing really high up on the list, and I'm gonna say this, and I feel like even though I don't want that to be important, I find that when I date and I date people that are not tall, I do lust for other people. And so I'm really concerned about that because I find myself like if we're at the restaurant and we're eating and someone, taller comes in and, as attractive or maybe even just a little less attractive, I look at them and I'm like, dang, like that's my type. So at what point do you say to yourself, you know what, I'm going to continue to date this person, even though they're not physically my type? I'm going to continue to date them to see if, like, what do? You say, I'm going to continue to date them to see if they change in my eyes, or if you feel like, I don't know. I hope you get what I'm saying. Like,
I hear what you're saying, Natalie, because I'm saying this to you because,
I
like me
knew
and look,
Jay
Jay had turned his camera back on. Jay had turned his camera back on. Let me tell you why.
I'm so proud of Natalie. She's slowly starting to come out of this. First she was like, what? They had to be 7 foot tall. Then they were 6'5",
she did with her little
6'2".
5'5" self.
I'm just trying to get her to
She's
5'11".
5'3". She's 5'3".
See,
I'm 5'4 3/4. Okay.
I told you. I knew she was not over 5'5".
She a little bitty thing.
That's what I knew. Yeah, she's not over 5'5", and she's taking all my 6'5" is what she's doing. but you know what? Okay, I have some questions for you that you can ask yourself. Number one, what's wrong with being alone and waiting for what you want instead of dating someone who you don't want?
There's nothing wrong with that. And I didn't feel like there was something wrong with that. It was just that I was letting
Jesus is taking too long. So you're like, I'll take this one.
Oh, it also had something to do with everybody saying the same thing about, maybe that person that you're looking for is not 6'3". You know what I'm saying? Maybe you should try to date other people because you never know. You never know, Natalie. So that's why I was like, okay, maybe am I missing out on my blessing? I don't know. Because go ahead.
I don't think so. Let me tell you why. Because you should. Jay encourages us to, and I have been doing this myself. You should date people outside of your comfort zone.
Right.
Because it helps you to define and refine more of what it is that you'd like. And I believe that God will grant you the desires of your heart. I believe that he will do that. Okay. If you date someone that's shorter, I will say in my experience, it wasn't the height that was the deal breaker for me. Once I got to know that person, now say we were out at a restaurant, my eye will turn to a taller person. My eye will turn, even though I find beauty in many races, my eye will turn to a Black man. It could he could be Matthew McConaughey walking there. But if Idris walks in, my eye is going to go like this, because that is my preference. Okay. So the thing is, once I recognize that, I'm then going to focus back with the person that I'm with, it's because I realize that's superficial. What do I have with this person that's sitting in front of him? Can I laugh with them? Are they holding my conversation and things like that? Now, after a while of dating them, if they're not, then it's no harm, no foul. It wasn't even the height that really turned you off from them. That's what I'm finding, with myself, because, and again, I think it's that we should take the time to actually have a conversation and try to enjoy fun things, find something to do, and not a date as I come over your house and you come over my house, because then you done slept with somebody you're not even attracted to. That was back in the day.
Oh no.
But I mean, it happens. Let's just be real. Like we talked about it before. Tejan was talking about it. Sometimes we have our types, but then next time you're like, what in the world was I thinking? Because you put yourself in a situation where emotionally that person might have been giving you or something at the time, or you were going through something. You're like, that wasn't even my type. So if you can make that concession at that moment, why can't you make a concession to date somebody that's shorter, for a lifelong partner type thing? You see? So we know that really, really the height thing, or the I was going to say complexion thing, or stature, or large bust, all of those things, when it comes down to the nitty gritty and it becomes a thing of the heart, those things kind of go out the window,
Right. I think what kind of like to your point that you're making right now, is that I do have a fear that if I date someone that I wasn't initially attracted to, that I would lust for someone else. And that'd be the last thing I would want to do, is to lust for someone else, or to feel like, now we're married and I'm like stuck and I got to make this work. And the one thing, he does that pisses me off. And I'm like, oh, you did that and you're short? Yeah, I'm out. Like,
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I am.
Yeah.
Because that's why I said I would just wait. And then, like I said, the list that we have, this is when you refine that list. I encourage every last person here, when you go to God in prayer, you pray for that person. Okay. And for whatever reason, well, I can't even say whatever reason, because he loves us. He's going to give us something that we want, that's going to be pleasing to us. And I know an older couple. First of all, the father, they're in their 70s. Now, the father is a shorter man. He's like 5'8". The wife is 5'11". Okay. Now, I met this older couple last summer at my girlfriend's family cookout. They're her parents. First of all, when I saw them, even in their 70s, they are a sexy couple. I mean, they just, so, and then I've seen pictures of them. And so she said, oh yeah, she said, yeah, my mother got it, but for whatever reason, they're still together 40 years later. And so she said the mother is my height. And so he's a good man to her. Like, he's handsome and he works and all these things. And she saw all these other things and somehow she stuck it out. And here they are 40 years later. So when I see stuff like that, I'm like, then, I'm not gonna, and I feel like once those needs are met, please, he could be 6 foot tall or whatever. You're not gonna be lusting for anybody but that man that's loving on you. That lust thing, it'll go away. I believe so. I claim that for you already.
Thank you.
I kind of agree with Natalie.
Yeah.
In the sense that, no, wait, let me finish. In the sense that the person does need to be, I need to find the person attractive.
Yeah, that's what I said, physically attractive, yes.
So they need, because that's what's going to get my eye first, if they're attractive.
But Sean, listen though, when you say, and I will reiterate that, when you say physically attractive, that is a broad spectrum.
Correct.
How many people know you might have a preference for someone that's darker skin, okay? But there are exceptions to a rule. Sometimes you might see someone else.
I've dated light skin, I've dated dark skin, I've dated all shades in between.
Right. It's whatever's appealing to your eye.
Correct.
Sometimes you might say you might want a taller guy. You might say you want a stockier. Like some guys I know some guys that I know only like full-figured women. That's what they like.
Right.
And so whereas an insecure, fuller figured woman might be at a party and she sees women that are got the hourglass shape, and she might feel insecure about that. Me, on the other hand, I'm like, I know somebody is looking for whatever I am. And there's guys who like that too. So, but there's exceptions to every rule.
Correct.
So there are guys who only date hourglass figure women, but then they meet another woman that might be taller, might be fuller figured, and something about that woman that doesn't matter to him anymore. So it's a different thing. That's why I think our focus should be on things outside of that. They should be physically attractive, but not so much, oh, they have to be this height or they have to be this weight, because people, like I say, nobody over 140 pounds, things like that.
For the majority of my life, I always loved the full figure women. The mother of my kids was she went in between 2 and 240 on any given thing. And I've never found that ugly. Fat to me is not unattractive. Maybe unhealthy, but not unattractive. And she has 3 kids as a result.
And that's attractive.
But after dating, I dated some slim women, some of that hourglass or whatever. And then it turns out that the things that I'm looking for literally goes past what's on the outside. You know, you talked about, like, I've dated women who the world would say is gorgeous, model. And when she opened up her mouth, she had the most disgusting mouth I've probably ever heard come out of a woman. And initially she became one of the ugliest people that I know.
See?
So definitely not attractive. You know, and so for me, and when I say average looking, I'm saying what the world would say is average looking. Average looking, what the world could be the most beautiful person in the world to me. You know, so you can take an average looking woman, she could have a plate of food in her hand and I'm in love.
Right. All of a sudden she's looking a little
She becomes like gorgeous. You know, so, but when I looked at your list, I actually screenshot it. You know, it said that it want a woman that doesn't drink much wine. That's a must-have for me. I don't drink alcoholic beverages. You guys see me with the beer all the time, but this beer has absolutely no alcohol in it whatsoever because I like beer. I used to drink beer a lot. I stopped drinking, but I still drink the beer and have my sandwiches and watch the football with the chips and the whole nine. You know, and right now for me, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, not after a long day of work, not 1 o'clock in the afternoon, because I've been up all night long. You guys know I work nights. So she does not need to have, you know, I'm not interested in drunkards. The quiet and gentle spirit to me is just sexy. You know, like I've met women who are real quiet, real gentle, and they have such a high level of confidence that they literally know how to be persuasive in that quietness and in that gentleness. You know, like they have the maturity to wait to a person is not. Go ahead.
I think Chuck left.
Somebody's trying to cut in, or
no? I think Chuck left.
I just said it's called leading.
Angel said want to say something.
Go ahead, Angel.
No, that's okay. I'm actually gonna jet out. So it's been a pleasure. Great presentation, Davida.
Thank you.
Oh,
more to come.
I remember what I was gonna say because I forgot. That's why I was like, anyways. What I was gonna say is to the questions that you asked for Natalie and the conversations that's been ensuing. I think it's sometimes good to ask why we have a certain preference. Some things we just don't know, we just have it. But I know for me, I'm almost 5'9", and so I've always wanted someone who is taller than me, not necessarily taller than the fro when it gets really big, but taller than me.
But see, look at all these different things. See, because she's like not taller than the fro though.
Right. So you know, I help. But the reason I had that preference, very shallow. One, it looks great in pictures. Let's just be but the non-shallow version of it is that I am a very small woman. And so I felt like someone who was taller, someone who was bigger than me, I would feel more protected. That a smaller man, I just didn't necessarily feel protected. And I once went out with a guy who was he might not even been 5'2". That dude might have been 5 feet. And he was a wonderful man, very confident in everything. He was confident in our situation. I totally was not. And even though he was strong and all of that, I just never felt secure and I never felt confident. And so I couldn't be in that relationship. So for me, that's where height came in. But now as I'm growing, as I'm just growing, period, the height isn't as big of a deal. 5 feet, that's not going to work.
Right.
But
taller than you. That's it.
But even someone who's even a little shorter than me, like a few inches shorter than me, I am now actually in a place where I'm fine with that because I don't want to give up the character and the qualities and the connection that I could have with someone who is 5'6" because I'm waiting for my 6 foot. And I think as I have met more and more men, I'm learning for myself that that quality over the package is more important. And it doesn't mean that God isn't going to give me the quality and the full package, but at the same time, I get to choose, and I don't want to miss this man here who's absolutely amazing, but you just don't fit and check all my physical boxes. Because here's the thing, I don't know which boxes I don't check for him.
Oh, very good.
So
That's real.
that's what I
Well, I'm going to pray the
That's
same
true.
prayer that you prayed to get to that point. I'm going to pray the same prayer. And I hope everybody prays for me.
We're gonna pray for you. We're gonna pray. Yep.